Hey, Hawkeye fans, welcome back and Happy New Year, our first Talkin' Hawks episode of 2024. Well, the Hawkeyes fell in the Citrus Bowl to Tennessee. We're going to recap that, and we've got an awesome guest on the podcast today. Spencer Lee is joining the Talkin' Hawks podcast. Hey, welcome back. This is Talkin' Hawks presented by Hills Bank.
No matter where you are in life, Hills Bank is here to help you succeed. Whether you're buying your first house, saving for your child's future, or preparing for retirement, you can count on the people at Hills Bank for the support you need to reach your goals. It's easy to connect with a banker in person, over the phone, or on hillsbank.com because we believe banking is better through human connection. Hills Bank is an equal housing lender and FDIC member.
Hello, Matt.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How's it going?
It's good. God is good. Another day.
Another good day. Well, I don't know if you noticed the colors that I dressed us in today, because I always pick out your clothes. I don't know if people know that.
That's not all the time. Just most.
Okay, wait, before we start, do I have anything in my teeth?
No.
I was just eating Estella's before because they brought us lunch today.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It's so
I
nice.
actually smashed an entire thing of chicken before we sat here.
I know, I watched you do it.
Hungry guy.
Hungry guy all the time. Anyway, did you notice the colors that I dressed us in today?
Only because I heard you say it earlier. Red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have you in blue. If you're listening, I'm wearing red leggings. I have a white shirt on and Matt has a blue shirt on because our guest today is competing in the Olympic trials.
Smart. Jeez.
I know.
Laura.
See, I'm always thinking. Spencer Lee is going to be on today. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited.
Obviously, he is graduated and just a part of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, but still a great interview. I'm really excited just to catch up with him, see what he's been doing since the last time like Hawkeye fans really saw him, which was NCAA's, and just kind of see where life has taken him. And then obviously leading up to Olympic trials, which is a really big deal. So very exciting.
I feel like the world of wrestling is a very unique one. So I'm excited to hear about it.
Truly. Because you weren't really a fan until we met.
Correct.
Is wrestling not a big thing in South Dakota?
It is. We had a dude, Mason Bender, actually. I don't think he lost a high school wrestling match from like his freshman year on.
Really?
He ended up, I think he wrestled at Augustana, which is a D2 school in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
But it wasn't something we all like rallied around.
Gotcha.
Not like Iowa.
Yeah, not like Iowa. It was a big deal at Prairie when I was there. Still is.
Was that the only sport that you guys were good at while you were there?
Relax. Yes. And cheerleading, please.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Okay. Well, let's, should we get into the bowl game?
Yes.
Shall we? Okay. I will say it was one that we had to record and watch.
We were on watch the flight.
We were coming home from Florida. We were in Fort Myers on a family vacation. And a week, we left on Christmas Day, stayed for a week, which is like our cap. That is our...
We might have gone over a day or two.
But like, I think we, in our marriage, have decided that is the cap for vacations.
Oh,
7 days, we don't go past that because it gets to be too much. So anyway, spent 7 days in Fort Myers with my family and then came back on the 1st. And yeah, I had to record the game and then rewatched it all. So tell me what you saw, Matt. Let's start with our offense. We saw a couple different faces at quarterback. And yeah, we started decent, I would say.
First drive wasn't great, but second drive, we started to move the ball. We actually got all the way down to like the 4-yard line or whatever before Deacon threw the interception. I'll get to that. But like we were breaking a couple tendencies. Don't get me wrong, we're still mainly 12 personnel, which again means 1 back, 2 tight ends, and then you basically 5 minus that, which is 3, gives you 2. So 5 minus the 12 personnel, 1 plus 2 is 3. 5 minus 3 equals 2. That's how many receivers you have on the field. Essentially, the two numbers that I say, 12, 1, and 2, the next number has to make it equal 5. Mm-hmm. I did an awful job explaining that.
I blacked out. I'm not doing that.
Sorry about that. Anyway, so we went 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers for most of that drive. But we broke a couple tendencies. We actually ran out of the shotgun, which is not something we typically do. And there are pros and cons to running out of the shotgun. Tennessee ran it out of the shotgun a lot to their credit, and they did it well. For us, it was kind of a change of pace where normally we like to have the running back behind the quarterback when we run, just because a downhill running game is a little bit easier. You've got him on his track. It times up sometimes a little bit better with the pulling linemen and things versus what they call sidecar, where he's next to him in the shotgun, where he hands it off. It's a little bit harder to get downhill. You have to stick your foot in the ground and then go. It's just a little different timing, but we did it pretty well going down the field. And then obviously the third down interception is tough. Kind of surprised we didn't run the ball, just because that has been to a point the strength of our offense. Our strength of our offense is not the passing game, or has not been the passing game up until this point. And so that was a little bit interesting, just not to try and do basically like a Northwestern, although we wouldn't want them to stop it, but like they ran it 4 straight times. Right. And so we end up throwing on third down. We're trying to hit a crosser late. You can see Deacon look right and then kind of work through his progression. I think Caleb Brown was stacked with Nico, and so Caleb went to the corner. He didn't like that matchup, so he didn't look there early. That's probably his pre-snap read. He looked right, and everything's flowing that way, so his primary read is on the outside, so his eyes are already there, and then basically he can kind of work to the left without having to go all the way across the field. So he only has to read half the field, if that makes sense. Unfortunately, they were playing like a man-to-man fence defense, but had a rat in the middle.
Okay.
And so a rat is someone who doesn't have a responsibility. They're a rat. They just sit there and then they read the quarterback and then they go. Well, he sees that he's only reading half the field, so he drifts that way. It's a diving catch. It's a great catch. They made a play, but we had an opportunity to go up 7-0 there, and that's a completely different ball game. Mainly because we scored a touchdown, but like to put points on the board early would have been really good. So it's just unfortunate that that's what happened, but he was able to read our eyes and gets picked. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like there were a couple of different like miscues between Deacon and our receivers.
Yeah, the 3rd and 3 drop to Caleb Brown, which there's been a lot of talk about how Caleb Brown continues to improve, which he's a running back transferred to receiver, transferred schools and transferred to receiver. So obviously that's not like an easy thing to do. They're asking you to do 2 completely different things. But the 3rd and 3 drop across the middle I thought was tough, just because Deacon had the pocket presence, stepped up into the pocket, which isn't something that we've seen a ton of. And we probably should see more of if they're going to run past our tackles like that. How I think it was the Penn State game, might have been the Minnesota game. I was talking about how, I think I talked about it against Michigan too, where we weren't getting a ton of depth because we're trying to run their ends by our quarterback. Well, then our quarterback has to step up into the pocket. And on that one, he delivers a dart, and 3rd and 3, unfortunately, it hits us in the numbers and we don't come up with it. I think there were 2 or 3 other drops that happened. I think Nico had an opportunity on 3rd. Some of them are just coaching points, like leverage. I think Nico does a good job of sometimes, setting up the guy. Like if I want to go left, I'm going to go right first, get him to flip his hips and then go left. He did that later on when Marco was in the game, and we'll talk about that too. But there were some times where I'm watching a route and it's like, okay, if you want to win here, just win there. Set yourself up so that way he thinks you can win in or out and then snap it off and you already won by leverage. So there's a couple things there that I think can continue to improve. And obviously with somebody else coming in, they're going to change some, in terms of offensive coordinator, changing a few verbiage things and, the way they want things coached. But, there were a couple other times, Deacon's eyes were, looking towards Caleb Brown, like the 2nd interception. So normally that number 27 is a pass rush guy, and he's the one who strip sacked Deacon on the 2-yard line. And so he's normally a pass rush guy. He's a little bit deeper on the interception, but he's in a 2-point stance. So Deacon's thinking, okay, he's probably coming, right? He's probably going to rush, but he snaps the ball and he doesn't take his eyes off Caleb Brown, throws it right to him, pick 6. It's similar to what happened, I think, in the Nebraska game where Ethan Hurkett kind of snuck in the middle, just didn't even see him, picked it off, and then we were able to win that one. But it's just unfortunate there were stuff like that, like little coaching points that I don't think we think about, like a play action boot that happened. We had a sack. Oh, we were going right to left on TV. I can't remember what quarter it was, but we play action, boot out. And Deacon's got Caleb Johnson in the flat. He can take a couple yards. The DB's right there, but he can get a couple yards and then call it good. But Deacon stops to set his feet. You can't do that when it's play action boot because They're not blocking anybody. Like, you're supposed to stay on the run. If you can set your feet, great, but it's not meant for you to do that unless they've got somebody who's going to come back and seal the backside, to kill the guy who's tracking you. But they're going to track you from the backside, so he gets hit and gets sacked, and we lose 6 yards. Like, those little coaching points are things that we need to continue to improve. And he's still a young player, right? There are still things that he did well. It's just making sure that we stack on those little things to move forward. And obviously with Cade coming back, I think it's going to change a couple things. But I don't think he played terrible, like a lot of people were saying, I think, on social media. I really don't think he had that bad of a game. I think that drops and then a couple coaching points like that kind of snuck by. But I don't think it was as bad as, I guess some were saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then we saw Marco Lainez got an opportunity to go out there. What did you see from him? I guess he had a couple of drives?
He had 2 drives. Definitely more mobile than Deacon. And I think he was our leading rusher at the end of the game, and he only played 2 drives. You saw that he had a slant. I think it was the 4th down, Nico. He started to get the ball out a little bit quicker, but the game speed's a lot different than it is in practice or scout team or whatever. That's another things that I saw during, I think Joey Labas put out some stuff before he was transferring.
Oh yeah, like practice tape.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, look at him slinging. He got sacked in so many of those, but like, they're not going to sack him in practice.
Right.
You're not going to hit the quarterback. You just run by him, you tap his hip, whatever. And so it's like, okay, he got tapped, step up, now throw. It's like, oh, well, that's great. He got sacked, and so it's different when you go into the game speed. And I think Marco saw that too, but he was able to use his legs really well. Mm-hmm. Obviously got some first downs. There was like a 4th and 15 and he got 16 yards. Like, he shows some moxie there, but he missed the quick out, missed a quick slant. So there are a couple things that he needs to improve. He's a true freshman. You expect that, right? So I'm excited to see what his growth looks like, especially being able to see a guy like Cade work day in and day out. Potentially in that number 2 spot, because in spring ball, there's no scout team, right? It's all Iowa versus Iowa. So how does that continue to improve? And I almost feel like bowl games have turned into like a precursor or a preview, so to speak, of the next year, and what spring ball is going to look like. So I'll be interested to kind of see how he continues to improve.
That actually is kind of interesting. It does kind of feel like that.
Because their quarterback was a true freshman too.
Yeah. He did pretty well.
He did well.
Marco seems like a big guy. Do you know how big he is?
I think he's like 6'2", 225, 6 foot, 225.
As a freshman.
Something like that. Crazy. Yeah.
We won't talk about your weight as a freshman. We don't have to do it. We've done it plenty of times on
stop. Here. Next question.
So that's kind of the passing game, I guess. Run game, we kind of had a carousel at running back, it seemed like. Had a few different faces out there.
I think we had 8 different guys carry the ball in the first quarter, or first half, excuse me. Maybe it wasn't that many, but it felt like that. Kamari Moulton, Caleb Johnson, LeSean Williams, Jazz Patterson. It was just strange to see that. Normally you find a guy, he's a workhorse, and that's it. So that was a little bit different to see.
I think it's pretty common for Iowa to have 2 at least.
Sure, like Akram LaShawn, something like that. And then you sprinkle in a guy like Derek Mitchell at the time or something like that. But yeah, it was that part was a little bit interesting to me.
That's it?
Yeah, I don't know why you would continue to move guys, because I think once you get in the flow of the game, you get hit. It's like, okay, I'm here. I know as a receiver, like, I want to get hit that first time. Like, I want to go in there, do a block, boom. Okay, I'm playing. Here we go. Like, that's kind of the mentality. So I would assume running back is something similar.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about our defense. This was, I feel like, a little bit of a different sight for us on defense.
Yeah, a little bit different. I think our offense obviously didn't help them, put them on the 2-yard line, things like that. But they did what I thought they would do, right? They spread us out to run the ball. And one of the things that I was really good at zone defense, and we might pattern match and a couple things like that, but we don't play a ton of man-to-man. So we play zone.
What did you say? We might what?
Pattern match.
Oh, pattern match. I'm telling you, you have to enunciate. It sounded like you said we might pat a match. Like,
John, did you hear pattern?
No, you really have
John,
to
did you hear pattern? You heard pattern. Thank you.
Maybe it's just me.
Anyway. Pattern match, essentially it's like it's a zone, but then once you know what route they're running, you basically run it for them because you're matching their pattern, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like zone man. It's like a mixture. But the thing is about defense, especially our defense, is we want more guys than you. So if you put 2 guys out to the left, we want 3. If you've got 2 guys out to the right, we want 3. Well, that's 6 guys over 4 guys. And now you look in the box, we've only got 5 left to your 6. We're outmanned. And then that's how they ran the ball.
Gotcha.
And it's a really hard ask to ask somebody like Sebastian Castro, be like, okay, just kind of be in the box. Like kind of put your foot there, but you've got anything wide. It's like, well, that's a lot of ground for me to cover and to try and stop them from getting 6 yards just because of the way we go. And then late in the game, I think it was, we were man to man, and it's tough to go man to man like that because if we don't have somebody high, like a rat, like a cover one where everybody else is man to man and you got one guy deep, if you don't do that and you go man across the board or you bring a blitz, if they get the blocking in the middle, there's nobody else in the middle. And then because there's nobody deep to save the touchdown. So like I'm not saying that like we didn't have the answers because we've got the athletes. Jay Higgins had 14 tackles, right? Like he's flying all over the field. We know this. It's just unfortunate that, you know, they were able to do that to kind of a more success than I think we're used to seeing.
Yeah. You touched on Jay Higgins there for a second. I just want to say, you said 14 solo tackles, 171 on the season, which is 7th all time in all of college football, which is crazy.
He's on there with like guys like Luke Kuechly.
I'm sorry, who?
Luke Kuechly. He was one of the best middle linebackers to ever play the game. He was a first-round draft pick for the Carolina Panthers.
These are things that are like in your head stored that have never even entered my ears.
Yeah, so he went to Boston College. He was a great linebacker. Got drafted first round by Carolina. Was one of the best middle linebackers in the game for a while. Ended up retiring a little bit earlier. He's probably in the middle of his prime when he retired.
Okay.
Had other business ventures he wanted to go down, but yeah, he's a dog.
Thank you for that.
So Jay Higgins is in that same thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then also, let's see, he tied for most tackles in Iowa history in a season with Andre Jackson back in 1972.
Records of 1972 in this season.
That's crazy. So anyway, very cool. Congrats, Jay.
Well, the other one from 1972, wasn't that the next phase that we're going to talk about? Wasn't that a record that we just broke?
Yeah, Tori, he broke some records. Let's see.
We'll go to special teams.
Let's talk about special teams really quickly. Did you want to say anything before I said these stats here for NCAA records that Tori set?
Tori was a pleasure to have on the podcast.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to check that out, there's the very first episode.
What a way to kick it off. Intended.
Golly. Yeah.
You see how I did that? Took you a
Dad
second.
jokes. Love them.
Really outkicked the coverage on that one. How was that?
That didn't apply, but I like where you're at. I like where your head's at. All right, continue.
Okay, his NCAA records for the season. Single season punt yards was...
Wait, NCAA or Iowa?
This is a tweet I should give credit from Owen Sebring.
Oh.
What?
I've been on KC... it's not KCCI, is it?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. I mean, anyway, it does matter.
I've been on his show.
You've been on his show.
I've been on his show a couple times. Shout out to Owen.
Owen Sebring.
Hopefully you're right.
Yes, this is a tweet from him, so all credit goes to him for knowing these. But NCAA records, single season punt yards with 4,479. That's a lot. Games with 40-plus yard average, 47. Crazy. Career yards, 46.3. Oh, career yards per punt. Excuse me, I read that wrong. 46.3. Single season punts of 50-plus yards, 40. Career punts of 50-plus yards, 103. Okay, that's all the NCAA records. And then he has Iowa records here. Punts in a season, 93. Career punts, 295. And career punt yards, 13,657.
The first two, it's kind of sad that he had those, but the third one, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. So anyway, congrats, Tori.
Yeah, congrats, Tori.
Very cool. Anything else you want to say about special teams? We didn't even get to see our field goal unit.
No, and they actually talked about it. The commentators did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the first drive where we were really moving the ball, and we ended up throwing the interception in the end zone. Mm-hmm. They were talking about how we were getting into Drew Stevens territory, but they didn't feel as good about it because he's been kind of up and down. Which
sure.
I would have been curious as to who would have kicked it. You know, as far as I know, Drew Stevens is the guy. It's just in that game-winning time they went with Meter, but I would have been curious to see who would have done it.
Yeah. Unsung hero. Do you have one?
I do.
All right. Let's hear your unsung hero brought to you by JB Roofing. Who you got?
I got John Nestor. Okay. A freshman.
Number 7.
Number 7. Number 7 on the field.
Don't. Just keep going.
I was just going to leave that number 7 on the field. Not Jacob Bostic, because you have the number 7, but he was on the punt unit. He's a gunner. Okay. And he did the one thing now, We saw it with Cohen Entringer in the Michigan game where he missed. And I talked about the coaching point, which is you have to take your shot on the opposite hip. You can't take it on the near hip. So John Nestor goes down there. He's on the left side of the punt returner and he takes his shot on the right side. I want to say it's first quarter. Takes his shot on the right side, trips him up, forces him to go laterally, but he still hit, like, because his aiming point was on the right hip. That's where his helmet and shoulder pads were going through. Guy tries to make him miss coming back this way because he knows that if he goes further, his arms are wrapped up. So Nestor gets the hit. He like does this weird thing where he spins out, his knee definitely hits, and then he definitely holds that ball in his hand and his forearm and elbow hit, which means you're down. He then gets up and like runs for 40 yards. And then they had to call it back. It was dumb because he was clearly down. But like he got tackled as soon as he caught the ball because we did our coaching point. We sprinted down the field, opposite hip, you're within 7 yards, you take your shot, boom. So basically he's the unsung hero because he did exactly what he's supposed to, like what he's coached to do. And we saw it pay off on like a Tory Taylor, boom, down. Like if we could just call it spot wherever Tory Taylor punts it, that's probably a good thing. Yeah, I think his first punt rolled a little bit, but like that's about as good gunner play as you can get. So
Okay.
John Nestor.
Unsung hero. Very
Unsung
good.
hero.
So I think what I gathered from that, Matt, from our little recap here, is that people are listening to Talkin' Hawks. John Nestor, following your coaching points, because I know you're the only person that ever gives that coaching point. Shoot at the opposite hip. LeVar Woods for sure isn't handing out that information. Right?
Well, not until that episode.
Yeah. Not until he heard you say it.
Yeah. You're welcome,
and then
Coach
also
Woods.
the Tennessee head coach had to be listening, and the defensive coordinator. I'm like, well, you know, Matt said that's how we beat him. Maybe you should stop giving away so much information.
I didn't like give plays away.
I'm just
I
saying.
just give philosophies,
Okay.
kind of.
All right. Stop giving away too much on how to beat us. It's all your fault. Citrus bowls.
Got so much up in this brain. It's hard to just keep it there, you know.
Okay. Well, we are going to get into our interview with Spencer Lee just in a couple minutes, so we will be right back. Need a new roof, gutter, or siding in Eastern Iowa? Call JB Roofing, a local and reliable roofer with over 20 years of experience. They do one roof at a time, unlike others who juggle multiple projects and cut corners. They also serve a 45-mile radius around Kelowna and help you with any insurance claims. Don't wait. Call 319-656-ROOF or visit their website, jbroofingkelowna.com for a free estimate. JB Roofing, the small town roofer you can trust. Hey, Matt, did you know that Iowa City Tire does more than just tires?
Yeah. I mean, they've been servicing the corridor for like 40 years.
Okay, but did you know that until somebody had to tell you?
No, I didn't.
Well, hey, check out how they're doing things in a very different way at Iowa City Tire and Service, where service actually comes first. Visit ictire.com. Okay, welcome back. Well, we are quickly approaching the Olympic trials, so what better time to have on Mr. Spencer Lee. Everyone, please welcome. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, thanks for being here. You have a lot going on right now, I would assume.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's good.
A little bit. And you just came here from Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, well, I was just visiting my parents.
Just visiting your parents.
Yeah,
So I didn't
yeah.
know that they lived in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, they moved here when I committed here, really. I mean, my dad got a job at Co College. He moved here a year before I came to school at Iowa. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. What does he do at Co?
He was the vice president of Co.
Just
Just all of a sudden, I'm just going to take this job as the VP.
Well, it's a funny story. The president there at the time was the president of my dad's college in Pennsylvania for like 12 years. So, and his wife had illness, and the children's hospital and hospitals here had a cure, not a cure, but a treatment for it. Right. And so he moved here and got the president's job at Co. Asked my dad to work there when I was in 8th grade. But I said I didn't want to live in Iowa. I wanted to live in Pennsylvania. I wanted to win state titles in Pennsylvania. I wasn't trying to say Iowa wasn't tough or anything. But to me, it was I wanted to be like certain people that had won 4 state titles in Pennsylvania. So that was a goal of mine. So I didn't want to leave. So it's funny. Then I committed to Iowa, and he immediately got a call from the president and was like, "Hey, you still want that job?" So he's like, "Oh, okay," So kind of worked out.
oh my gosh, so
That's
it's all
wild.
meant to be.
And-
Yeah, funny, right? Funny how that worked. I mean, gosh, it's goofy, but yeah, my dad ended up coming to Iowa a year before me. He was so my mom and him did long distance, and then we all moved here. So
That is amazing. Okay, so let's just really back up for a second. I just want to talk about your childhood. So you're a twin.
twin sister,
Yes, and your sister is lovely, by the way.
good singer, right?
Yeah, she's incredible. She would always sit by me before she did the national anthem
Oh, really?
at your guys' meets and stuff, and so I got to know her pretty well. She's so sweet. She was always very nervous, which I didn't
She's
understand.
so ridiculous. My favorite memory of her was I was at Junior Worlds like in 2016, and I could hear her in the middle of the mat just screaming. My dad had to like make her leave because I was losing the whole match. I ended up winning like at the last like minute or something, but that's never happened before. I've never been like losing in a match like in freestyle and then had to win. I've always been winning. So she didn't know how to react, so she was losing it. So she's very, very like she is really, really supportive. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
So growing up, I guess, were you guys always super close together, or what was that like?
Yeah, we were close, but it was hard because the extracurricular activities that we both did were so different and at different times. So
what
like,
does she do?
She was a band, like art, like theater. She was always in like acting classes, always in music. So she would be busy from like 3 to 8, and I would be busy from like 3 to 7:30. Then I'd have practice at a club, until 9. So I would literally see her in the morning. We'd drive to school together, and then that was like the only time I saw her. Unless we had class together, like I never saw her. So like being close was hard because I was always driving somewhere for tournaments, always practicing somewhere far away, and she was always at the school.
Gotcha.
So yeah, she was very, very busy. And she studied really hard. She had 4.0. She had 4.0 in college, high school. Very, very. all she did was study and do papers. And me, I'm like, okay, I got it done. I'm gonna turn it in. I got too many practices and workouts. So you know how that is. Like you do your best, but like you're like it's due at midnight. I'm gonna turn it. I'm going to bed. I got to work out at 6 a.m.
Do today. I'm gonna do it today.
Exactly. I'm not gonna do it ahead of time, even though you should do it ahead of time. But I don't because I had to finish. Workouts and sleep, and to me it was food, water, sleep, and energy was more important than my workout. So
Understood.
whatever. Yeah, and she was very opposite. So school was the most important thing. So
okay, and so did you do any sports when you were growing up aside from wrestling?
Not really. I did soccer the most besides wrestling. But other than that, not really. I ran cross country 1 year just to keep in shape for wrestling. It was miserable. I hate running that far. I like running, but different. Cross country, the coach is like, go run 9 miles. I'm like, 9 miles,
Yeah. Okay, but 9 miles is a lot when you're 5'3".
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I'm like,
You don't gotta say it like that.
but she's not wrong though. Like everyone I'm running against is like tall and they're this big, and I'm like stocky, and I'm like I'm all muscle, and I have legs like this big. I've got 7 steps for their 3 steps. And I'm running hard. It's true. When you got more muscle, I'm not saying I'm jacked or anything because I'm not, but like when you have more muscle, that oxygen is harder. Everyone's skinny like this and they got like lean. You ever seen like the best like marathon runners? They don't look like a muscle head, right? They got like they're like this big. They have to be. That's how they run. You can't keep the muscle when you're running 20 miles a
100%.
week or a day. Really, they're crazy, bro.
Right. Were you good at cross country? Decent?
Good for like my area.
Comparatively speaking.
Yeah, for me, I ran my fastest 5K was like 18:30, which is pretty good.
That's really good.
But I about died. Okay. Like I don't think I could ever do that again. Maybe now I could. This was like freshman year of high school, like 8th grade freshman year of high school. Like I was
25K. That's pretty solid, right?
Yeah, it was like almost like a 6-minute average mile.
Okay.
So it's like 6 something or 6:02.
And you just went out just because you were waiting for wrestling?
No, my dad wanted me to keep my weight down, keep in shape and like keep it like fresh, Like for him, he was always like, you got to take some time off from wrestling so that when you have the hunger to get back into wrestling, because everyone's so worried about burnout. You've probably heard that a million times in football. Sure. Oh, my kid burned out. No, you don't burn out. It's a mental thing. If you love the sport, you won't burn out. That's why he always made it like, so it was like a fleeting, like take it away a little bit. And then you really wanted to come back to it. So he always did that to me. So that's why he made me do like soccer and cross country growing up, just so like when I was doing it, I'd be like, I hate this. I want to go wrestle,
I love that.
Yeah. So that was kind of like, I know you guys have kids, so maybe you can think about that a little bit, right? But for sure. That's how my dad thought of it for me. So.
Okay. Was your dad a part of your training process a lot?
He was my coach all the way up until high school with everything. And then he kind of gave me to the high school coaches, and I had club coaches. My club coach's name is Jody Stripmatter. He was a national finalist here at Iowa for wrestling at my weight class 125, 2-time Big Ten champ. He only wrestled 2 years here. He was a 2-time Division II national champ, then transferred here to Iowa. And then he took 2nd and 3rd at nationals, 2-time Big Ten champ. So he was really good. I think he took 3rd Olympic trials in 2004. And then he retired, started a club, and he had the number 1 club in the nation when I was in high school. He's still amazing club now to this day. I just don't know if it'd be number 1, but it's definitely top 3.
And that club is Young
Guns. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so,
And who else have we gotten from Young Guns?
Oh, Caleb Young, Michael Kemmer, Max Murin. Those are 3 guys that were all Americans on our team from Pennsylvania. Yeah, Austin DeSanta, he didn't go to Young Guns, but he's from Pennsylvania. Those are the PA guys. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we had Gavin, but he didn't stay here. So
Okay. So when you were kind of, like you said, handed over to your high school coaches, was that kind of a breath of fresh air to not be coached by your dad? Or at first was it kind of like a big transition for you?
Well, he was still there at the club practices. So like, I still worked out in the morning with him and he coached me at the club practices with Jody. So I still was with him pretty much all day. He just wasn't at my high school practice. They wouldn't let anyone in there to coach, or they would have. He probably would have been there too. So.
Wait, so you wrestled high school and club? Like it was
Every
separate?
day. Yeah. So you go from high school practice was at 3:30 and then club practice was at 7:30. So I didn't really have a life in high school. I worked out at 6 a.m. every morning, whether it was running, some kind of like workout, strength. I didn't really lift. I did like calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, whatever. I never lifted until really, honestly, this year.
Well, I saw you doing pull-ups with like, I think you had like 85, like
no, the most
on a
I
weight
did,
belt.
I don't even want to tell you the most I did. You probably think it was like 150 was the most I've done. I did one pull-up with 150. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a strong back. It's the only thing I'm good at is pull-ups. So I'm not good at anything else.
That's wild.
All I did
man.
growing up was climb rope and do pull-ups. I never lifted or anything. If you put me under a bench, I probably couldn't even do 135. All right.
I couldn't do that when I got to college.
You know,
either, so
I'm
you're
weak.
fine.
So like with all that stuff, I don't lift. So, but
Anyway, work out at 6 a.m.
yeah, well then you go to school, 8 hours in high school. It's, horrible, right? You can't leave. You don't have 2 classes and then a break, like in college. And then you get done at school at 2:20, but practice at 3:30. So you just like sit in the locker room for an hour. Either you do homework or you sleep or whatever. And then all of a sudden you got practice and you get home. It's like 5:30, 6, you do your homework, eat, 7:30 practice. You leave at 7, it's a 20-minute drive. So and then I get home at 9, you go to bed, because you gotta get up at 6. Right. So that was every single day. Right. So like, it was funny is everyone's like, oh, you ever talked to anyone from your high school? I'm like, no, I haven't talked to them since graduation. I don't know. I didn't know anybody. Like, how do I make friends? Like, I mean, sure. and then I was like kind of crazy. So like we had a thing that was called QRT, at 30-minute periods. One was your lunch. There was A, B, and C. One was your lunch. And then you had 2 other periods, you do like homework and stuff. So I always did my homework in one of them. And then during my lunch period, and then the other one, I would run on the track. So like I was always doing
for
like
fun?
Yeah, well not for fun.
For training.
For training. I just always wanted to do like extra. Like I didn't run a lot. I'd run like a mile and then like I'd stretch or something just to like kind of keep my body moving throughout the day. Well, you're sitting down all day. It's miserable. Like it felt good to do something. So that was like my day every day. So I mean,
it felt good to have a workout in the middle of your 3 other workouts.
Yeah, well, the other ones aren't that hard. I mean, your morning run, it was like a 20-minute run in the morning, not crazy, Just get your like your body
just get
moving.
up and get moving.
Right, or a bike, something. But it wasn't like kill yourself. Like, how hard can you go? Because I know I had 2 wrestling workouts that day. So like, and then the high school workouts were never like crazy hard because my team was really good, but like it was like, coaches were more like teaching stuff. And then the club workout was only an hour and a half. So you drill for like 45, go live for like 45. And they had it was one mat. So like you had to switch, you sit on the wall. So it wasn't like
plenty of rest.
Right. So there was, most of it was, you had to like stay in the middle or not take the rest if you wanted to get more out of it, for both practices, So. Gotcha. It was a lot. High school, I mean, when I think about it, I'm like, that was miserable probably. I was crazy. I was probably just like, okay, Dad, whatever you want,
Yeah.
I didn't think about anything.
And so what was training like when you were, okay, here's my question. Was your dad a wrestler?
My dad was a national judo coach, like the Olympic team coach for judo. For U.S. judo, yeah.
Okay, and so you never got into judo, or you did?
No, and my mom was also and she was an Olympic alternate in '92.
Yes.
for judo as well.
So for those that are listening that don't really know much about mixed martial arts or any sort of martial arts, can you kind of like really dumb it down of what exactly judo is?
Yeah, well, judo is basically it's a martial art with no striking. It's mostly throws. You have a gi on, and it's like in wrestling.
Gi is a uniform.
The gi is a uniform, like you grab kind of like what I'm kind of wearing, I guess, and you grab that and you see them. If you throw the person to their back, you pretty much just win, right? I mean, as simple terms as I can make it.
Yeah.
So my mom and dad did that. Judo is not very popular in America. In fact, it's pretty much a dead sport in America.
I hear a lot more about jiu-jitsu than I do judo.
Right. So that's fair because jiu-jitsu is way more popular in the world stage than judo. Judo is really popular, obviously, in like Japan and France and Russia. That's probably the 3 countries that win everything. And jiu-jitsu is obviously like probably South America, and America's pretty big in it too. So
have you pulled a lot of stuff from judo? Because
I mean, I do
background?
stuff, and I was taught stuff, but my dad called it like wrestle judo because you can't grab someone's like gi in wrestling. You have a singlet on, it's like skin tight. You can't like grab their skin.
Sure.
So we had to like change it to wrestling scenarios. So But I wasn't able to do as much judo in college because of my knees, but I did more in high school than
So you had to kind of like change the way you wrestled because of that?
Yeah.
To a point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had torn ACLs. I mean, hard to.
I mean, I know there's only so much you can do, but to think that like you were still at that level and you had to change the way that you wanted to wrestle, like that's for me, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it definitely was a learning process. So, and a lot of people, I think it's kind of, I'm not saying I like started a revolution or anything, but a lot of people are starting to wrestle now with torn ACLs. And before it was like, once you tore, everyone was like, that's it, you're done. You're never going to do anything. But I think people have realized you can cope with a torn ACL in wrestling because your knees are always bent. We don't jump. We don't cut. We're very, your knees are bent. You can protect yourself a little bit better. If I was in football or basketball or, even baseball where you're running and sprinting, turning, whatever, you just can't.
Not a chance.
You just can't, I'm not stupid. There's no way I could have done basketball or football with a torn ACL, at least as long as I did, It was like 4 years of having at least an ACL torn or both. Right. So out of the 6 years I wrestled, and one didn't even count because I had surgery. So 5 out of the 6, I guess, really. But so it's like, how do you?
Like, that's wild.
But but it's not as impressive as people might think it is. Just because it is, if you really work on it and you're smart, you do have to change your style. You're not as offensive. You're not as explosive. You're not as dangerous of a wrestler as you were before. But it does affect you a lot. I mean, I was talking to my teammates about it. Like, y'all, if you tore an ACL, you probably lose like 20% of like your skill. Like, you're probably your highest skill is 80%, to be honest. Wow. But you can still win with being smart, being in good shape.
Do that and a lot more technique, probably.
Yeah,
too, right?
you just stay in really good position and you don't like go for things that you might have gone before. Like even now, I'm starting to do things that I haven't done since I was like 17. And it's been fun, like wrestling and competing in a way that I haven't done since I was in high school. It's almost like I always used to joke that I'm worse in college than I was in high school, like athletically, and with how I wrestle and the things that I was able to do because I couldn't do them. And people always said I was joking or because I did okay in college, right? So like people were like, oh yeah, you're lying. No, but I seriously, like I wouldn't say I'm better. I'm definitely better now than I was in high school, but but like the things that I could do were way more. Like I had way more like variety in my wrestling, like in the way even how I could train,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's got to be exciting knowing that like college is behind you, but you can do all these kinds of things as the Olympic trials are coming up and you're feeling that way.
100%.
Like, that's got to be scary for everybody else.
Well, hopefully it is, I mean, whatever,
That's awesome.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's been taking a long time to get healthy, but it's been good.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go to high school really quickly. I'm trying to go like in chronological
Sorry,
order
I keep messing it up.
So your recruitment process had to be a little crazy.
I mean, somewhat.
I just remember, so I had like kind of just started. I was in like, so what year did you get here? Remind me?
2017, 2018.
Okay, so I was like 1 year in, okay? And I came into the room and you had just gotten there. And you guys were doing media. Yeah. And my boss was like, Kelsey.
Oh yeah,
she
I
was
love
like,
Kelsey.
Okay, there's a really big freshman here, da-da-da. And like my role at the time was like, hey, focus on the people that are here, not like the recruits. So like that wasn't a big part of my focus. And I was like, okay. And all this, I like walked in, it was like, shoom, swarm of media right over to you. Like as a freshman, you're 18 years old. Like, what is that like when you immediately get all this attention? Obviously you got some probably in high school, quite a bit, but getting to college and now it's kind of like national and like all the Iowa media is like on top of you. What's that like?
Well, I mean, it definitely was like a eye-opening thing, humbling process for me. I mean, I was definitely used to like media, like, right. I mean, everywhere I went, it was like always a camera on me, even in high school, or people talking or media calling me or something, It just never ended, right? But it definitely like it doubled, when I got to college, it was way more, I mean, everywhere I go, it's like constant, like even now, like I can't even go anywhere in Iowa. I get recognized in convenience stores everywhere, it's just like, so it's been like humbling because like Iowa is so crazy about their sports, so I've always like been very like thankful, for being a part of that. So like when I was 18, it was like definitely an eye-opening experience to, especially my first media day. Like they were all over me.
It was wild. Kelsey's like, I'm going to pull him over here. I was like, are you sure? I don't know.
I felt bad for my other teammates because as soon as I walked in, the media just left my other teammates and went to me. It was like, so like my teammates had to stand and wait because
they had to wait for them to talk
to me and then go to them. And I was like, I haven't done anything yet. Like
that'd be so salty.
Yeah,
right? It's like my teammates were good. Like they weren't bad at wrestling. Like I hadn't even done anything yet. Like it was just like
totally different.
I haven't wrestled yet. Like they don't even know how good I was. Like
sure. Oh my gosh. Okay. So then, well, I guess with media though, do you guys do any kind of like media training? Because we were talking about this where like Iowa football is very like plays everything close to the vest. You don't want to say
we
too
go
much.
through media training on what
really?
you say because you don't want to give bulletin board material.
No,
Whereas like that's part of the shtick,
Fair
I feel
enough.
like, of wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to say what I want when I want.
somewhat.
To a
I mean,
point.
we're definitely told certain things by like our media people not to say or like how to like say
Present
something,
yourself,
present
essentially.
yourself. Yeah, but really not really. We don't like actually have training.
Sure.
I mean, my dad basically trained me from when I was like 7 years old to speak in front of cameras and media. So like I was always, pretty proficient at it, but like, we didn't get it from Iowa really as much, but,
Well, like Akron.
we had it if you wanted it.
Oh, I got you.
But no one wanted it. They didn't want to go through extra stuff, right? So
Gotcha.
I'm not saying we didn't have the opportunity to have it. We just were like, do you want it? Like, if you want it, it's there.
Yeah.
You heard that a lot, right?
Right.
It's,
Right.
it's like office hours and
I feel like it's kind of part of the like wrestling, like MMA, like boxing culture is like, you kind of want to make a spectacle out of it. You kind of want to you want to amp it up a little bit, right?
You have to know your audience and you have to know yourself and make a name for yourself somehow.
Gotcha.
How can you present yourself in a way where people want to watch you? Because at the end of the day, we're entertainment. We're not different from it. People don't watch you because they're like, oh, he's such a nice guy. Like they want to watch entertainment. Like sure, they might like who you are as a person, but at the end of the day, they want to watch you compete. And that's the same thing for every sport.
Yeah.
So when you do talk to the media, you have to know who you are and how to present yourself in a certain way. So some people I think do a good job. Some people have to do better probably. So
Well, I feel like that's the unique part of, that's the unique part of like wrestling is like you are a part of a team, but it's still got the individualistic, you got 7
100%.
minutes where it's just you out there on the mat.
100%. And that's why you have to know who you are and give the media what you think they should get. That makes sense.
Sure.
It
I
reminds
probably
me.
bored everyone when I was doing interviews. I said the same stuff over and over again. So
Same
imagine.
thing.
yeah, I was like, I didn't want to give them anything,
No, they move well in space. They're good.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Exactly.
Every freaking week, Tuesdays, I had to go out there and talk to them, and I said the same thing.
I always said the next best thing, and the next best thing is the next competition because it's the next one. And they're always like, okay, Spencer. Like,
It just makes me think of DeSanto. Obviously, like you said, another guy that came from Pennsylvania, and you guys wrestled against each other in high school. And he was kind of like a wild thing when he came to Iowa, right?
He was
and
wild before, but
right. But what I'm saying is like he was wild before, and then when he came here, it almost seemed like Tom and Terry had to rein him in a little bit. Were you kind of a part of that process? And like how did you see him change when he got here and kind of mold into that Iowa culture and what that looked like?
well, yeah. I mean, I was the one who recruited him. When he got kicked off the team, I knew him from high school, so I ended up messaging him and being like, because I don't know if you know the story. Me and him wrestled twice in high school, both years in the state finals, my junior and senior year. And when he beat me my senior year in the finals, I remember we were walking to the podium and I grabbed him and was like, why are you going to Drexel? Like nothing against Drexel. But I was like, you need to come be a Hawk. I was like, you're a Hawkeye. Like that's who you are, And he was like, oh, my parents want me to go to Drexel, like he just listened to his parents. Right. And as soon as I saw that, I called him. Was like, and I know that like other coaches were messaging him. He didn't answer anybody. But when he got a text from me, like it's a respect thing. We had respect for each other because I beat him the year before. Then he had like the Vision Quest, everyone like from high school, and he ended up beating me. And so we had respect for how he trained and how I competed, And so he answered me, and he literally was like on a visit like the next week, and he was like committed, and it was awesome because like I got to get to know him, and I got to get a new training partner, and then I got to see him grow from freshman Austin to who he is today. I mean, he's still one of my best friends, if not my best friend, and he's matured a lot,
Yeah.
It's been really impressive to see who he is
He's a
today.
loose cannon, or he was when he first got here.
No,
Like, I think that's kind of what you were
he was a
talking
very
about.
emotional person. Like he wore his emotions on his sleeve, and it wasn't like in a negative way. Like he was never trying to like be derogatory towards any opponent or coach. It was always in defense of our guys. Like a guy on their team would thumb down or point at Terry and flex on him. And Austin's like, that's my coach, you know? Yeah. So immediately he's like, that guy, I hate him, you know? And then he'd go out and he'd kill their guy. And he'd look at that guy and they'd run at the, you know, then he's trying to run at the guy, you know? Cause to him, it was like, how can I defend my program, my coaches, my leaders, you know? And he did that so much. I mean, everything you've seen pretty much, there's only one instance where it wasn't like that. That's probably his most notorious one. I'm not going to go into it, but the one that he wasn't in Iowa then. When he was at Iowa, every instance of you seeing him be crazy was probably in defense of something that happened, whether it was the guy said something under his breath or said something, you know, but he just reacted wrong too. Like if someone punched me in the face when I was in college while I was wrestling, I would have just walked back to the middle. I wouldn't have done anything. Like, cause to me, it's like, oh, I won. Like, see you, dude. Like, go have fun. Right. Like, you're DQ'd. Like, I wouldn't have cared because that's just like, you know, I don't know if I rarely showed emotion even when I would win anything, you know, because to me, it didn't matter because you're supposed to act like you've been there. That's how I was taught. Right. So like Austin was learning how to deal with people pushing his buttons. You know, people would try and do stuff to get in his face. They tried and hit him in the eyes, or like, you know, they'd do stuff underneath, you know, where the ref can't see and try and get him a rise out of him, you know. So he's completely had a 180 from then, and it's been pretty cool to see. So
it's been so fun to watch. I mean,
he's
very far removed from the outside.
Wrestler.
Yeah, it's so cool. He was one of the funnest guys to watch, obviously, in Carver.
And he's such a good dude. Like people just don't know. People have a bad image of him, and I hate that because if they even talk to the kid for 5 seconds, they'd be like, "Wow, he's actually like a really awesome guy." He's just very emotional, and you know, he had to learn to control his emotions. It took a long time. You know,
he's a competitor.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate competitor, man. He gets heated. You know,
I love it. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more from Spencer. This season, Marquee Pizzeria is teaming up with Nico Reganey to help the University of Iowa Children's Hospital. Together, they've created a new signature pizza, the Nico Parm. Sounds so good. $2 of every pizza will be donated to the Children's Hospital. Visit Marquee Pizzeria, located in the Coralville River Landing, this fall and help the kids by eating pizza. Bugman Pest Control. Rest easy when you have the Bugman's top-rated defense protecting your home and business, providing maintenance and prevention treatments for any problem. Call today for a free quote, 563-554-BUGS. Proudly serving the Hawkeye State since 2008.
Locally owned and operated, Performance is a full-service restoration company serving eastern Iowa. As an IICRC certified firm, their multi-licensed technicians have decades of experience in water, mold, and fire mitigation. Whether it's your home or business, this is the team you want in a time of need. Performance Restoration, 319-626-2292.
The Appliance Barn offers a wide range of high-quality appliances at unbeatable prices.
Whether you're in the market for a new refrigerator, dishwasher, or washing machine, they've got you covered.
They also have a delivery and setup department to ensure your appliances get delivered and installed quickly.
To find out more, visit appliancebarn.com.
Can you talk to me about wrestle-offs? I feel like that would be, with a sport that is individualistic, as you just said, but then also a team sport where like you guys are 100% have each other's backs, right? But then you're in wrestle-offs and it's like, it's kind of my enemy at this point, right? Is that like, what is that like?
Yeah, I think that.
Well, hold on. Before you go, sorry. Can you define what a wrestle-off is?
Yeah, of course.
People?
Well,
I don't know what that is.
Gotcha. Well, so essentially a wrestle-off is where two teammates wrestle and the winner is essentially the starter.
So same weight class.
Of the same weight class,
gotcha,
correct.
Gotcha.
So two people wrestle in the same weight class and whoever wins becomes the guy. Gotcha. But we don't really have legit wrestle-offs.
Okay.
Even if you win the wrestle-off, you might not start. Because it's about who the coaches think will perform the best on the mat. And obviously, you beating the guy is a good indication of being a better wrestler. But in some cases, some people have wrestled the same guy multiple times in practice, like for years, and they're just really good against the one guy. And then you send him to a tournament and the other guy wins and he doesn't place. Like that happens a lot, right? So it's like, which guy are you going to start? The one that wins in the wrestle-off or the one that won the tournament? You know, it's like, that's a tough choice. That's why the coach is the coach, right? So that's why I don't think wrestle-offs are that serious in our room. They are, of course, no one wants to lose, but it's how hard you work. Do you pass the eye test? Our coaches always say, like, how hard are you working? How bad do you want it? How much effort are you putting in? You know, are you doing the most you can to be the best you can be every single day out? You know, who wants to spot more, basically, is kind of how we think of it, you know? So our wrestle-offs used to be like public, people could come in and watch, but they're really just an inter squad get you matches. It doesn't mean anything, you know?
Okay.
So
That's fair.
but and then the guys do somewhat get heated, but not like that. I mean, I've seen so many guys wrestle off and then go talk about their match together, like in the locker room, like, cause we're teammates, man. You wrestle the guy so much, like, unless you do avoid him, which Tom would never let happen, you know? Like, he's like, what are you afraid of? Go, you'll either whoop his butt and show him who the man is, you know, like, right? So.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay. So I want to talk about Tom and Terry. Because everyone, including myself, is enamored with them. Because like as people, as coaches, whenever anyone asks me like, who's your favorite person to interview? It's a common question I get. It's always Tom and Terry / anybody in the wrestling room. Because you just never know what you're going to get.
That's true. It's always good and bad thing, maybe, you know.
It's good. It's good. But like, obviously you were drawn to them to be coached by them and recruited. What kind of, I guess, drew you to them? And then like, I mean, you're still in the Hawkeye Wrestling Club.
Absolutely.
I mean, what kept you here with them?
Yep. I think I was, when you say enamored by their energy, how they wrestled and competed as athletes and the energy they have in the corner when they're coaching you. Some people may not like the energy they have in the corner, but I didn't want them to be coaching against me. I didn't want to fuel that guy, like, you know, get built up from that, you know. Like I wanted them to build me up almost, you know, and then obviously they're incredible coaches. They were both ridiculously good wrestlers. I mean, even watching Tom coach sometimes and show stuff, I'm like, you're ridiculous, man. Like he's like 55 and I'm like, I think he would still beat me. Like, you know, it almost pisses me off because I'm like, I think he would whoop my butt, right? You know, I'm like supposed to be my prime. I'm supposed to be pretty good, you know. I feel like my coach would whoop the crap out of me, right? So, because he's legit, man. He would have won in 2002 had he kept competing. Shoot, he could probably went to 2004 too. Guy's nuts. He just decided to coach, so everyone to each their own, right? But yeah, I mean, Terry should have won 96 and 2000, so they should both have 2 or 3 Olympic gold medals in my opinion. But that's not even biased. I mean, I just watching the matches that they had. I mean, Terry should have won. He got kind of gypped, and then Tom just didn't compete again. So.
Sure.
So when I would watch them, how they compete, how hard they wrestled, how bad they wanted. I mean, the one thing that stuck out to me was the Tom Brand's Olympic Finals match. He's winning 6-0 or 7. I think it was 7-0. He's just beating the absolute, you know, whatever you want to say, like out of the guy. He's just killing the guy, right? In the Olympic Finals. Just, I mean, and wrestling today, for all those out there, 2-point takedowns. Now it's 3-point in college, but it used to be 2-point takedowns in college. It's still 2-point in freestyle to this day, but when he wrestled, it was 1-point takedowns. So he was up 7-0 with 1-point takedowns, just absolutely destroying the guy, you know, in the Olympic finals. And there's like 7 seconds left, 8 seconds left. Most people would have just circled and like kind of like, you know, started celebrating beforehand because that guy's just, you know, he can't win. Like, you know, unless it's not possible really. Yeah. As good as Tom is in 7 seconds to score more 7 points or pin the guy, right? So I remember Tom literally running the guy out of bounds. And then there was still time on the clock. And then he's literally was on the guy's leg picking up, trying to score with like 1 second left. And then he threw the guy on the ground and then walked in the middle, no emotion on his face. I'm just sitting there like, Olympic finals, 7-0. I'm 7 seconds left. The other guy, I guarantee the other guy would have stayed up and like hugged me or something. And like, just like, it's over, right? You know, Tom's like, he would, you know, and just like would have took the guy down again. Like, he's like, there's still time on the clock, you know? And to me, I'm like, that's how they are. Like when there's time on the clock, you don't stop. Like you just invoke your will into the guy, you know? And I'm just like, man, like that's just how they both were though. Terry was the same way. That's just the one example that I had. Just absolutely winning in the situation where like, it'd be like in football, you know, you're winning by like 35 and there's 8 seconds left and you're throwing Hail Marys, you know, like it's like, you're like, what are you kicking a field goal, you know, and then score another 3 points and you're like, yeah, you know, it's like, why? Like I said, Tom was like, there's still points on the board. Like there's still time to score points. Like that's just how they are. So like, I was like, wow, that's just, and I wanted to be like that, you know? So like I always tried to emulate how they wrestled in high school and, you know, I wasn't like them in college, you know, but I wish I would have been more like them in college, but, that's kind of why I was like, man, if these guys could even give me an inkling of how they were and how they wrestled, how they trained, then maybe, you know, I could be something. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So tell me about where you're at right now in the whole process. So I'm kind of ignorant to where you're at as far as like, how did you get to the Olympic trials? How many people compete to get to that point? What did you have to win? Like, how does all of that whole process work?
Yeah. So, Olympic trials, you have to qualify. There's 3 qualifiers. There's a tournament called the Bill Farrell. Only the champ qualifies. Then the U.S. Senior Nationals or U.S. Open Senior Nationals. I don't even know what it's called, to be honest. I think it's I think it's senior nationals on the year of Olympic year and US Open on non-Olympic years. And the top 5 of that qualify for Olympic trials. So I ended up winning. I actually won both of those. I didn't need to go to the senior nationals. I just went anyways. I think I took a spot from someone when I won. So I think only 4 people were qualified from that. Oops, I didn't know. I don't know if that's how that worked, but that's what I was told. So I just went just to compete. I beat the same guy in the finals both times, the Farrell and the Open, so, or the senior nationals or whatever. So that's like 6 guys qualified. There'll be a last chance qualifier. So there'll be one more guy.
You're going to go just for fun?
I'm not allowed to go that one. If I was, I thought I'd think about it, maybe just for fun, right? But I'm joking. But it's the week before the Olympic trial. It's probably not the best idea to go to that. But I was joking. Like, what if I went to that? I just stopped another guy, like everyone's like, what a jerk, But yeah, no, non-qualified people have to go to that. You can't be qualified. So yeah, that's the week before. And then the other people who are already qualified or anyone that was already a senior world team member in the quad. So from, 2020, 2024, I think it even goes back to 2018. So I think it's 2018 to 2024. Anyone who's in the world team at the weight above or the weight below qualify for the Olympic trials. Or if you're like a world medalist at either weight as well, obviously. So, obviously if you're a team member, you're qualified, obviously the medal doesn't matter. But if you're a world champ, then you start in the semis. If you're not in the same weight class. So you're a weight above me and world champ. There's a guy who's a world champ at the weight above me. He'll start in the semis at my weight. But if you're a world champ or world medalist, if you're a world champ, you start in the finals of the Olympic trials from the year before. So we don't have anyone that's a world champ.
Gotcha.
So it'll just be the 3 guys so there's been 2 guys who made our world team, or 3 guys who made our world team at my weight since 2018. So those 3 guys are qualified and the guy who won a world title. So he's the 4th that's qualified. So there should be like 11 or 12 guys in my bracket.
Okay.
So it's a pretty small bracket, but only the champ goes to the Olympics.
Is it the same weight class as college? Is it 125?
It's like 125.6 or something. It's in kilograms. So
is it hard for you to stay at 125? Or is it pretty easy?
I mean, I would say that it's harder now that I don't make weight every week. So when you're in college, we make weight every single week from like October to March. So you get pretty small when you make weight every week.
Right.
When you're constantly at 125, your body gets used to being that size. So it's pretty easy at some point. Eventually you're just naturally like never above a certain weight. But when I compete 4 times a year, it gets a little harder. So, and then the older you get a little bit bigger, your weight goes up a little bit more, So I was never big for my weight class. So it hasn't been that hard to make the weight, but I'm definitely bigger than I was in college, even though it's only been a year, which is unfortunate for me. I'd like to be a little bit smaller just for my sake, but it's all good. I got time. So.
Okay. Who's going to be in your corner at the trials?
Probably Tom, Terry, Dennis, probably those 3, one of those 3,
Very
2
good.
of those 3 probably will be in it.
Nice.
Dennis is the Hockey Wrestling Club coach.
Yep.
And then Tom and Terry. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Were you at the Soldier Salute this past
I
weekend?
was.
Yeah?
I was coaching some of the unattached guys.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
All right. And do you like that aspect of it? Coaching some of the other
Yeah,
guys?
I love I love coaching those guys. I mean, they were my teammates, so like my brothers, So it's a bit odd being like a coaching mentor figure kind of, because it's like imagine listening to me when they saw I'm like a goofy guy, I joke around a lot, And it's like, and then I get all serious and try and coach them. They're like, oh, shut up, Spencer, Like,
Sure.
Is
that what you want to do when you're all the way done wrestling? Do you
I don't
wanna
know,
coach?
man. Everyone always asks me, you gonna be a coach? You gonna be a coach? I don't know, man. I'm trying to win the Olympics and go from there, I have a contract with the Cock Wrestling Club through 2028, so I plan on competing till then.
That was one of
At
those
least.
answers.
So you got time.
That was the immediate answer. The next thing is the next biggest thing.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
me.
next
Whatever's
biggest
in
thing.
front of
Whatever's next is the next biggest thing. Like tomorrow, practice. No, I'm just kidding.
I get it.
Well, it's
I
got to be
understand.
interesting seeing a coach wearing an Oura ring. We talked a little bit before we started.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell us why you're wearing
Yeah,
that?
I mean, first of all, getting good sleep is good. Getting to know your sleep is good, having a schedule. But I'm a gamer, so I stay up a little bit. So it's good to keep me accountable. If I get a text from my, strength coach saying, hey, why the heck you only get 5 hours sleep, that's probably bad. So gotta go to bed earlier, and they can see your average sleep of the week too, so like you might have good couple nights in a row and they can, one bad day might drop it pretty hard. So gotta keep consistent. Sleep is probably the most important thing for an athlete. So
Okay.
gotta work on that.
And so since your last NCAAs with Iowa, what did that look like for you in terms of like, did you stay in Iowa? Were you staying with your parents? Were you training right away? What was that like?
Well, so actually the US Open was a month after the NCAA tournament. It was like 3 weeks or something. I really didn't train at all leading up to the Open. I didn't even want to go. but because I was like not really all there mentally. And then I just kind of said, hey, I think I have to go because it was basically the world trials. So the top, like, I think it was top 4 guys would go compete at this other place tournament, but the top 2 would wrestle, the guys who made it in the finals. So there was a guy sitting in the finals. So you had to win the open. And if you won the open, then you'd wrestle him best 2 out there to make the world team. So I made the semis, then I forfeited out of the tournament because I was hurt. And so, I mean, I got a lot of crap for that. Same with NCAAs and Open, but that's what happened. I can't help it, you know.
Right.
So I ended up not, you know, competing the rest of the tournament. But I had to go because if I don't go, then I wouldn't have wrestled until the Farrell I just wrestled in because I was the next tournament. Wow. So it was either that, you know, so I had to go. So unfortunately, I mean, I mean, it was like last second. I mean, I really decided to go like 3 days before the tournament.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't even like resting or anything. Cause I didn't, but my Tom was like, we kind of have to go, don't we? And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. You know, so just kind of went, right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was unfortunate. I would have liked to have, cause it kind of hurt me for this year. Cause there are ranking tournaments and tournaments to get a seat at the world or Olympic team or the Olympics. I mean, and I can't go to those tournaments because the people who get priority to go to those tournaments are those who are on the senior team, senior national team. So in the senior national team, for those who don't know, is the top 3 guys at the weight class at the previous world trials. So whoever made the world team and then the second and third guy, those are the senior team members. I forfeited and took 6th, so I wasn't on the national team, right? So I don't get priority to go to any of these tournaments. You know, there's one literally next week in Croatia. I couldn't go, right? So, gotcha. And that's, you know, stinks, you know, for me to not be able to do those things, but that's okay, you know. Still have the opportunity to make the Olympic team, but so that's basically what happened. I went to that, and then after I was forfeited out, there was nothing to do until the Bill Farrell. So I ended up actually going to Japan for a month. My buddy, his name's Taco-Bout. He won the Olympics in 2021 at 65 kilos. I went and hung out with him. I've been friends with him since we were in the same bracket at Cadet World Team or the Cadet World Championships back in like 2014. So I won his bracket in 2014 at Cadet Worlds, and then he won like 2 world titles at the other 2 world championships age group. These are age groups, so cadets 17 under and then juniors 20 under. So I won 1 cadet and 2 juniors when I was in high school, world titles, and he won 1 cadet, 1 junior. But we would always miss each other because I would get hurt, and then he would get hurt, and we would always go to different worlds. So when I won 3 and he won 2, we never went to the same worlds that we won. So we were always trying to meet with each other because we were buddies. You know, we traded singlets, kept in touch, and they ended up winning like a senior world title in 2018 when he was like 19 years old, and I won NCAAs that year as a true freshman. So I was trying to make the world team that year, but the coach, I'd never been healthy, so I took that summer off. That was the only summer in my entire college career I wasn't hurt. And then 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, I was hurt every summer. So I never made a world Olympic team, never went to world trials. I've still never been to a world trials really, because I forfeited out of the last one. I didn't even lose, you know, I have never in college tried to make a world Olympic team, you know, and I was like, I think I was the 2 seed at the 2021 Olympics trials, but I didn't go. It was the week after I won my 3rd national title. It was like 9 days after, not quite a week. And I had 2 torn ACLs. And I was just not healthy from the tournament. I mean, I was all sorts of messed up. I really wanted to compete, but the doctors were like, we don't even know if you can. And so it was really hard. I don't know. Sometimes I wish I did. Sometimes I wish I didn't. But I try not to have any regrets in my career. Right. But so yeah, it was a crazy. Went to Japan, hung out with him for a month. That was really cool. One of my only vacations I've had like the last 10 years. So it was awesome. You know, I really loved Japan. I would freaking live there. The place was so cool. Yeah. Okay. It was awesome. The food was amazing. I mean, I was like disappointed coming back to America for food, you know? So that was cool. I trained a little bit there, not really much. I wasn't there to train, but a bunch of schools found out I was there, like colleges and stuff. They wanted me to come wrestle with their guys. So I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and I wasn't even pretty cool. I wasn't even healthy either. So like, I'm trying to wrestle these like college national champs in Japan, and I'm like all hurt and everything. It was pretty fun, but yeah, but that was what I did. So I did that. And then immediately we had our camp for the university camp, and I helped run that. Okay. And then basically it was like August, school started, and I'm in grad school. So I had to be here. So that was my summer after my last year. So
what are you in grad school for?
Sport and rec management.
Very good.
That was my undergrad as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Yep. Okay. I'm going to ask you one more question. And this is just like a mentality question, because I know a lot of people say wrestlers are a different breed. I'm sure you've heard that a million times in your career.
We're definitely unique.
Yeah. So my question is that something that's learned? Is it a mentality that's learned, or is it a mentality that you're born with? Like, there's not a whole lot of high school guys that are going to take their free periods and go out and run an hour around the track.
Yeah, but you probably hear more wrestlers do that than anyone else.
That's what I'm saying. So
You know,
is it
and
like,
I don't think that's I think sometimes traits like that can be inherent. I mean, I would say my dad was a lot crazier than I was.
okay.
Hearing stories about him, even my mom would say, I mean, even to this day, he's nuts. I mean, he doesn't work at Co anymore. He works at St. Cloud State. He's the vice president there. And the guy literally works from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. He just doesn't stop. I mean, he's like, I don't even think he's human, honestly. But that's how he is with everything. Like, that's how he was coaching me. That's how, he would drive me 4 days a week, 2 hours, both ways to go to clubs just to get partners every single week for 9 years, Wow. So like, we want to talk about crazy. That's him. So like, I think I get some of that inherently from him, but I'm nothing. If I was like him, maybe I'd be better. I don't know. He's a hard worker, man. And, but I think sometimes the wrestling people are like that, but I do think that's something that's taught. I think coaches, enforce those like, mental like fortitudes like into you, like those like, how to be the best, this is how this guy did it. This is how this guy, cause you see like, I think a lot of it too is like with our weight cutting, keeping our weight down, you have to work out a lot to keep your weight down as well. So you're doing things to be better, and then you're doing more, and then you're doing things to keep your weight down and keep in shape, because it's a very cardio sport. Imagine like just sprinting for 7 minutes. That's basically what wrestling is, and squeezing hard with someone else pushing against you. That's like kind of what wrestling's like, so you get really tired. So you have to be in really good shape. So I think a lot of it is knowing that how hard it is and how tired you get. You got to make sure to get as least tired as you can. So I would say that's probably some of the reasons why wrestlers are a bit nuts. But
Okay.
I think all athletes are crazy, to be honest. It's all
Especially
different, because I think every sport is like, I don't think there's a hardest sport. I think they're all crazy hard because there's different mental and like different time constraints in your sport and how you have to do to get to be the best at anything. How, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? So.
Okay.
I want to say one last thing, because I think it's kind of, I'm gonna put these positive things out there, 'cause I feel like it's gonna be like a book ending, right? So we talked about at the beginning of this podcast that your dad would keep it just far enough away from you,
Yeah.
and you would compete. You can compete and be like, just step away from wrestling real quick. Be like, no, I want to wrestle again, right? And you said you were hurt the last 5 summers.
Yep.
You had to forfeit out of the last Worlds.
Yeah.
Because wrestling is just like right there.
Yeah.
And now you're doing things that bring you back to high school.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting chills talking about this. Like, for you to finally get that, like that kind of book ending of like, okay, I've been chasing it. My dad's been keeping it apart when I was younger. Different circumstances. I've done that in college, but now to do it professionally at like the Olympic level, the world level, like that's what I'm cheering for, is like, okay, the book ending to this of like, I'm finally going to catch that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think it's funny you say that, like, it's like people always ask me, Spencer, like, do you still wrestle? I hear that all the time. What are you doing now? And I'm like, I just started. That's how I think, because freestyle is what I always wanted to do. I didn't know anything about college until I was like 15. I never watched college. I didn't even know it existed, really. All I watched were Olympic champs. I knew every Olympic champ's name from the 1972 Olympics, all the way up until, 2008 and 12 when I was a kid. And that's all I knew. So when people were like, oh, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I'm going to, chase the dream that I've been chasing since I was 6 years old. So, people say like, what do you do now? I just started again. So that's why I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I'm excited for what that's going to look like.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah.
So good. Okay. Well, Spencer, thank you so much. And I will say, last night I was at the women's game and they played your walkout song. And it just didn't feel the same. I was like, they started, it was like, doom, doom, dude, and I'm like looking toward the tunnel, like, is he coming? Is it
I still can't listen to that song. That'll get me nervous, man.
Dude, chills instantly. So cool. But
Make my heart beat.
start it, cue it. Hey, it was so cool to have you on. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me,
coming.
guys. Sorry, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we look forward to watching you in the Olympic trials, and obviously wish you all the best.
Yep.
And we have our red, white, and blue on.
There we go. Yeah, I got red, white, and blue in my shoes. So
Nice.
I got red, white, and blue.
Love to see it. Hey,
Yeah.
best of luck. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate all of your support, as always, on social media, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is, however you're listening. Please keep up to date. Turn on your notifications on all of that so you can stay up to date with all things Talkin' Hawks in the off season. So look forward to 2024. Obviously, best of luck to Spencer, and we'll see you guys soon. Go Hawks.